know that training center is a place where actually the project gets implemented. Right, everything. Like if I am saying few of the things, then it is actually clear what I am saying now. So if whatever is mentioned in the guideline, whatever is mentioned in the SOP, both the SOPs is actually get implemented in that one place, and that is our training center, DDU GKY training center. So this is why it is very important to understand how we will manage the center management and how disciplined we will be, or how disciplined one should be to effectively manage a training center and then get the product in a desirable way. What is the desirable way? Like providing the training to the candidate, following the timelines, following the guidelines, conducting the assessments, conducting the OJT, and the most important part is the placement of the candidate. So everything starts from there. That is our DDU GKY training center, and that is why today's session holds such an importance in the implementation of DDU GKY project. Okay, so let's begin. So we will fix an agenda for today. So the first thing we will just see what is the structure of a typical PIA. Then if we talk about the training center, if we talk about a training center, it's actually run by a operation team, right? The center management or the entire team who are present in a training center, implementing the project, providing the training is actually the operation team, right? So who are the employees, or who are the personnel, or who are the stakeholders which constitute this operation team? We will look into that. And then we will also look into very briefly the role of the operation team individually, but we will be focusing mainly on the center manager because he is the heart and soul of the center. Right? The center manager is the heart and soul of the training center. So we will be focusing more on the roles and responsibilities of the training center manager, but we will also discuss and look into very briefly the other roles and responsibilities of the operation team as well. The structure of a typical training center, structure of a typical training cycle. What is training cycle? Like we all know, we already have, we have courses of several durations in hours. Earlier it were in 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, 12 months. Now we have already segregated into hours. Each batch constitutes a typical training cycle. Okay, so what is that particular structure of a typical training cycle? We will also look into that. Then the indicative roles and responsibilities of a center manager, as I said. Then what are the functions a training center have to play in his or her training center? Then the leadership qualities to be demonstrated by a training center manager. So these is the agenda we'll be looking after in today's session. So let's start with the structure of a typical PIA. So we all know that team head as well as a national placement head. So what are these designations is all about? So if we do not have to go into this particular designation, let us keep in mind that we have a SOP in place, right? We have a SOP in place. So that SOP has several functions and the stakeholders and the persons or the stakeholders who is actually responsible to take a particular action within a particular timeline. Okay, so according to that, we have MIS head who will be looking after the updation of the case, who will be also a very important communicative person or the liaison coming into a national based data as well as a state based data. Okay. Secondly, the finance head, obviously we all know that DDU GKY needs to have a separate bank account, a dedicated bank account to be managed for the effectively management of the fund. So national finance head is also very important. Then Q team head. The Q team head is actually the person who actually belongs to PPIA, but is or she is also the watchdog of the project as said in SOP, and he or she is very much responsible to maintain the quality of the project, to maintain the quality of the training center, and to maintain the overall quality of the training of the candidate. So, QTeam head is also very important. Then, obviously, our ultimate goal, that is the placement of the DDU GKY candidate. So, our placement head is also very important. This is actually based on the national designation or the national PIA human resource structure. Okay. Then we all know that we have projects in individual states, in separate states, right? Like a same PI can have projects in 2 or 3 different states. So in that case, in place. For that, one project head who actually holds the same responsibilities as well as the project head in case of the national head. Okay, so the state project head is actually responsible for the entire project management, project implementation in a particular state. And along with that, obviously, the state MIS head is also there, state finance head is there, state QTeam head, and state placement head. And under the state MIS head, there is MIS manager. Under the state finance head, we have finance manager. Under state QTeam head, we have QTeam manager or executives. State placement head, we have placement manager under the state placement head. Now, coming to the training center part, it comes under the state project head for a particular state. A training center, we all have a training center dedicatedly for a particular state, right? So for that, we have a state project head, and then under that we have center manager, and under center manager, there are a team working for the implementation and the training of the candidate. Those are the trainers, the counselors, the mobilizers, the MIS executives, and the placement executives. So now into this session, we will be concentrating on this left portion of this flowchart. That is the state project head, center manager, trainer, counselor, mobilizer, MIS executives, and placement executives. Why I have already mentioned that center manager is actually the heart and soul of a training center. Why? Considering the implementation of the project, proper implementation of the project as per the guideline, as per the SOPs, and hence the roles and responsibilities of center manager is very important, and we need to understand from the core of our heart. Okay. So, as I have already mentioned in the previous slide, the constitution of the operation team, the project head, then state specific there will be a team, and then center specific there will be a team. Okay, so for the national there is obviously a project head, but when it comes to state there will be a state head. But if a state has got 2 or 3 different training centers, then all 2 or 3 different centers will have a separate team of center managers, mobilization team, counseling team, trainers, placement team, and so on. Like anyone, if you want that, you need to have in your training centers to help you out in the implementation of the project. Okay. So this is actually the brief role of the operation team during the initial phase of a project. What is the initiation phase of the project? When the training center is not actually ready, but we have to get the project sanction from the state, and we have to prepare all the necessary documents according to that. All the necessary documents we have to maintain, we have to create, and operation team is actually responsible for applying the scheme with all these necessary documents which have been prepared. On clearing this appraisal process, then the operations team will prepare the presentations for the CACs, for the meeting, for presentations in front of the state, so that the state can understand that what the CPI is capable of, what are their background, what are their features, and what we can be providing the training perfectly to the candidate. And then on getting the project sanctioned, The operation team will have to prepare again all the documents, reports, and for all the subsequent activities. We have the project execution readiness, we have the project, this PPWS targets and the registration, then the ERP, and then we have to go for the other due diligence of the training centers, so on and so forth. It's like that. That operation team is actually implementing the project in a state, may it be a physically, then in a document wise, applying for the project, get the project sanctioned, convincing the state that okay, they are capable of implementing the project in their particular state, and they will be achieving the target according to the PPWS target regarding the training, assessment, placement. So this is actually entire cycle. This is actually the now it comes to the execution phase. What is the execution phase? Now we are actually going to making a center ready and then providing the training to the candidates. First of all, identifying a training center and set up a training center as per SOP. So you identify the training center, it's okay. Now you have to set up a training center as per SOP. How is that done? So there is two standard forms, standard form 5.1 D1 and standard form 5.1 D2. So these are the two standard forms which need to be maintained, and the entire requirement of the protocols which need to be set up to set up the infrastructure of a training center to make it adequate to commence a batch and to ensure the new batch to commence D1 and standard form 5.1 D2. Accordingly, that training center needs to be set up. So these are actually the role of the operation team. Okay, you have to maintain the documents, maintain the equipment, then set up the lab equipment, lab, classroom, size of the classroom, everything. You know, whatever you have in a training center, each and every item, each and every standard form. Document, I am repeating once, like repeatedly I am talking about standard forms and documents, standard forms and documents. Why? Because I will be describing these standard forms and documents in the later part of the slide, later part of the session, because it's actually, we already have inspected so many training centers, and when it comes to a training center manager, the more efficient training center manager manages the documents, the standard forms of a training center, we can definitely say that it can be a very good implementation of a project from that particular training center. Okay, so the documents and standard forms are that important to be maintained. Okay, so now let's get back into this slide. We have identified the training center and we have set up our training center according to standard form 5.1 D1 and 5.1 D2. 5.1 D2 is actually residential purposes. The due diligence is approved by the state government. Then we need to mobilize the candidate. We need to mobilize the candidate. Once the candidate is mobilized, they will come to the training center. Then a separate counseling team will be there who will be describing about the project, describing about the domain or the trade in which we are providing the training, and what are the prospective job roles they will be getting after completion of the training. Okay, so that counseling part needs to be done efficiently, so that there should not be any confusion among the candidates that why they have come to the training center, or in any duration or any phase during the training, that they will be in a state of they will get the job. That all confusion, the first counseling itself. Then whether the candidates or which trade is aptitude test need to be conducted. the enrollment of the candidate is done. Okay. Now, once we also do the we also completed the mobilization part, then we need to go for the recruitment of the staff of a particular training center. So for the training center, we need to get trainers. First of all, the trainers need to be TOT certified. Okay, so we need to have trainers, mines executive, placement executive, etc. Then, as per 5.1 standard from 5.1 D2, we also need staff members in the hospitals like wardens, security guards, then on-call doctors if available. Okay, so all these staff members need to be present in the training center at all times, specifically in the hospital. Okay. Then next, there will be a making time note of is as per SOP. Now in the first point, we already have set up a trainer according to standard form 5.1 D1 and 5.1 D2. Now it may happen that during the implementation of the project, few of the items can experience some kind of failure. For example, let's say one of the CCTV camera is not working suddenly, all of a sudden. Then one of the tablet candidate was doing some practice. Candidate was working on a tablet, and at some point of time, that tablet is not working, or the mouse is broken off a computer. So each and every item needs that, if not working, they need to be maintained in a separate format as per SOP. There is a format that is called daily failure report. Okay, that is standard 5.1C. If you go SOP, you can check it, you can see it, you can find it, and according to that, you have to maintain the daily failures or issues that a center manager is encountering or the center team is encountering in a center. Okay, and if there are some serious issues which will take more than 1 day or 2 day or 1 week time, for example, if a working for a minimum 4 days or 3 days, then it to be reported or communicated to the state team so that it will be in a record that yes, this CCTV camera is not working for some technical reason, and it will be also be noted that okay, fine, in the subsequent inspections, the inspectors or the officers who will be going inspection will keep in mind that fact, and a kind of like severe non-compliance or severe advisory can be avoided if proper communications is done regarding a technical failure which is there in the training center for a long time, for quite a long time. So these are all the things. Even a minor failure like RO or the fans or anything, whatever is not working, should be mentioned properly every day in a daily failure report. There is again a 15-day summary report, that is standard form 5.1U, wherein every 15 days you have to update the items which got filled in that duration of 15 days, the first 15 days and the next 15 days. So in a month there are 2 15-day summary reports, right? So in that way the reports will be maintained. The failures or the issues observed in the training center will be maintained, and that is very important. Okay. Again, a very important failure are the equipments in the domain lab. So those are the equipments which are also very important, which need to be recorded and kept in a proper loop for the communication with the team. Okay, so that it is under record that okay, these are the items which are not working, and in that way the major advisories can be avoided. Next point is complying to any deviations observed by Q team. Obviously, now I was talking about the inspections, and the next point is the inspections only. So we all know that there are three inspections done by Q team, CTSA and SRLM respectively for a particular batch. Okay. So during the visit of Q team, CTSA or SRLM for inspection, there will be obviously some of the non-compliances or some of the deviations which they will be issuing to the state team for the better implementation of the project. Okay. So complying to those deviations is also one of the major responsibilities of the center team manager, and it needs to be ensured that the compliance of the deviation report should be submitted on time so that the next advisory is not issued to the center team. And secondly, it is also need to be kept in mind that repetitive non-compliances to be avoided. I will come to those points in the subsequent sessions or the subsequent slides during this session, so that we can also get into details that how we can avoid the repetitive non-compliances which actually issued by the Q team, CTSA as well as the SRLM officials. Okay. Okay. Now everything is done. Now obviously we have to achieve our milestones. We have to achieve all the targets regarding to the commencement as well as the placement. So we have the PPWS in place. We already have committed the targets which we need to achieve monthly basis to the state, and obviously to maintain it we need to follow it, because if we are not following it, then there is obviously any kind of notice or the default actions a state can take against a PIA. So if we need to achieve the PPWS target, we need to achieve the training and the placement targets of a particular training center as well. Okay. So these are actually our milestones, and if we achieve this milestone, we will be eligible for the subsequent installment. Okay. So this is actually the execution phase. After this initiation phase, in the initiation phase, we are actually getting the project sanction from the state, and in the execution phase, we are identifying the training center, setting up, we are all doing the mobilization and counseling part, we are providing the training to the candidates, maintaining our standard forms, we are complying to the points raised by the raised during the inspections, and lastly, we will be achieving our training and the placement milestone so that the timely release of installments can take place. Okay. Yes. So this is the typical structure of our training centers. I have already mentioned that who are the personnel or who are the major or the core team of a training center we need to function with. Okay. So these entire team is responsible for the implementation of the project in the state if there is one training center, and if this team at least take care of their own training center, then it is not very much impossible or difficult to achieve our training and placement milestones, right? So first of all, the heart and soul of our training of a training center, that is center manager. Again, I am training this multiple times because this is the thing you need to keep. I know that there are a lot of responsibilities, but if you have I know that there are capabilities. We look into it. If we look into it, and we can easily implement the project if we follow the processes, follow the protocols, follow all the timelines, and we can definitely achieve the milestone, the training and the placement milestones as well. So who are there in the team? First of all, the center managers, the trainers, the mobilizers, the placement executives, and the MIS executives. Next, a structure of a typical training cycle. So what is the training cycle? First of all, we need a candidate. Okay. Then we will screen the candidate. What is the selection and the enrollment of the candidate? I just said that aptitude test needs to be conducted to see whether the candidate is applicable for a domain subject or not. And then we also do the counseling of the candidate to explain the candidate that what he or she should be expecting from the training, right? From this project. Like he or she will be coming to the training center, they will be getting some of the entitlements they are supposed to get, and they will be getting a good training on the domain, and then after that assessment will be done, certificates they will be getting, and then the most important thing, the placement. They will be getting the job from this training, out of this training, isn't it? So all these facts need to be properly explained to the candidates during this mobilization and screening part. Once the candidate is enrolled, we are providing the training and then the OJT. After this OJT, the candidate are get placed, and after the placement of the candidate, it is again the responsibility of the training center team to track the candidates along with the placement documents for a period of 365 days after the completion of the training. Okay. So this is a typical batch cycle in DDU GKY. One, a candidate gets mobilized, field, then the candidate gets registered in the ERP, all the documents are collected, the training center team will be maintaining a candidate dossier where all the necessary documents need to be updated, need to be kept. Okay, that will be verified in the subsequent inspections as well. Then the batch will be commenced. Batch commencement data need to be uploaded in the ERP. What are the batch commencement data, like what is the batch size, how, like every category, how many candidates are available in each category, like SC, SC or PWD, all these things need to be updated. Then training center need to get monitored, inspections will be conducted, internal assessment will be conducted, external assessment will be conducted, there is biometric attendance is then according to the biometric attendance provided to the candidates on a regular basis. Okay, one thing I for year 2016, where few of the SOP 1 and 2. So all of you just can visit after this session. Right? And then in the year of 2016 and can download it. Okay. There are some amendments in you put properly. So whatever things have been made and updated in the notification form. Internal assessment attended, final application after application candidate is applicability if in the training that like salary basis. Okay, to claim that candidate is placed, and we can also achieve our milestone for the subsequent installments. So for release of the installments, for all the installments, we need to submit few documents regarding the placement. Then tracking of the candidate for a next tracking of the candidate, like for the next 365 days, we need to candidate after the candidate gets placed, and obviously along with that, all the activities for the commencement of the next batch will also be run parallelly to this tracking of the candidate. So this is a typical batch cycle in a DDU GKY. Now there are some roles and responsibilities of a training center manager which I had been talking since the beginning of this session, that there are some roles and responsibilities of a training center manager. So let's start with it. So if I am telling since then that it is a roles and responsibility of training center manager, that doesn't mean that training center manager is actually maintaining everything. It's the responsibility of the entire team to run a training center efficiently, to make the project a success, to make the training a success, and reducing dropout of in a training center and who are coming to a training center with a full of expectations that they will be getting placed after the completion of a training. Okay, to live up to that expectations is the responsibility of the entire training center team to actually carry on the roles and responsibilities they have been assigned in this DDU GKY project. Okay, so while we are talking about only center manager here, but it is actually not center manager. It is the individual roles and responsibilities of the entire team, of all the member of the entire team. Okay, yes. So obviously, he is the center manager, is the head of a training center. So overall responsibility for the management of the, because we also need to will do what. That is also is one of the major standards defined in the SOP. Obviously, addressing non-compliances as reported by Q team, state team, PTSA, MORD, through inspections or due diligence during the establishment of a training center within the stipulated timeline. So I already have explained this, that there will be some non-compliances and we have to comply it within the stipulated timeline. Along with that, it is also need to be maintained that that the training center team ignore in the training center. PWS. So it is actually the PPWS where we have already set up some targets. We have already committed few targets to the state that okay, these are the months and these are the targets we will be achieving in this particular month, right? So if for say if you are achieving the target given to your training center as per the capacity, okay. So obviously, if you are running a training center with a full capacity, it will not be very much impossible to achieve the target as per PPWS. Then is come the designing. Previous slides we already have seen that there is a cycle we are following for the batch, isn't it? So what is that cycle? How we will decide that when we will start the training center, when we will complete the training center, what are the activities, when our batch will be going for OJT, when we will conducting the internal assessment, right? So what is the idea of, like, what is the plan? Where is the plan we will work on basis of which plan? So that is actually the activity cum lesson planner. To see that each and every subject, each and every module, topic, as well as the instructions mode, like the mode of instruction, whether it will be some kind of physical activity or it will be kind of online session, or you are using some kind of demonstration or exposure visit. So all these mode of instructions, yeah, lab is also there. Okay, practical lab is also there. So all these mode of instructions are in how entire batch will run, and if a batch is of for say 90 days, then a total 90-day activity come lesson planner including OJT. I have seen that many PIs do not include the OJT in the activity come lesson planner, but it is also actually mandatory to include the OJT in the activity come lesson planner. Why? Because OJT is actually the part of training, isn't it? So our training hours or the training duration actually completes or includes, rather I will say, includes the OJT duration as well. So you should also include the OJT duration if applicable. If applicable means if the OJT you have included in the training plan. First of all, you need to prepare the training plan where it will be clearly mentioned if OJT is included or not. If OJT is not included, it's okay. But if OJT is included, then you have to include OJT in the activity lesson planner as well. Okay? Okay. Then mobilizing the required resources, man, machine, money, material for the optimum utilization of the training center. Okay. Then project the data or the record verification on 100% basis. Obviously, a training center manager needs to maintain each and every document, verify each and document on a daily basis. For example, I just said that whatever failure is encountered in a training center per day basis. For example, even a minimum one, light is not working, fan is not working, even a bench got broken, chair got broken. Everything needs to be recorded in the daily failure report, and that needs to be done 100% basis. For example, you are distributing the tablets to the candidate for a practice. Okay, so you are giving that needs to be signed and registered. You are taking back the tablets, you are counting the tablets, you are ensuring that all the tablets are available in the training center as per the capacity of the center. Okay, fine. So that thing also needs to be registered or maintained. So what is actually or what are these records? No, or let's say that how all these records are need to be maintained. So these records need to be maintained and verified by the center manager, even though somebody else is manager on 100% basis. Okay. Yes. Then training delivery on need basis, reporting center performance on the internal management team, facilitate candidates and parents meet wherever and whenever required, and tracking of the candidates. See, the point 8 and 9 is actually the point which is actually at your organization level. Okay? What is that? Like, it may happen that few of your team members are newly joined. So you need to also keep them in track or inform your management team that what are the training or capacity building they need to undergo for the implementation of the project or for their enhancement. Because there are few trainings which are regularly conducted on a monthly basis or quarterly basis, either in your organization or done by NIRD-PR or state SRM, right? So that needs to be also tracked so that none of the officials are there in the training centers who have never undergo any kind of capacity building training. Okay? So these are actually need to be maintained also by the center manager. Then have been made mandatory for each and every training center in charges to be ESOP certified. So you have to read the SOP, you have to read the notifications, make yourself updated, and then appear for ESP certification every time, every year, and then report it to the state SRLN. Submit your certificates to the state SRLN. So that is again one of the major roles and responsibilities. Then be up to date with various notifications, as I just said. Then have contingency plans for all situations arising at training center. Okay, develop the leadership qualities for effective staff management. So again, here one point when the leadership qualities, then obviously it's again a responsibility of a training center manager to set an example for other staff by very bare minimum disciplines like coming in time, dressing appropriately, having a effective communication. Okay, so that the other staff also display the same during the training of the candidates while they are also available in the training center. Okay. Then identifying the weak candidates and conduct extra or special classes to develop their weak areas. Okay, so there is again 42 2016. As far I remember, I'm actually unable to recall the exact standard form. It may be 4.6C or 4.7C. Just get through it. Okay, it's notification 42 2016. So here, in the internal assessment, in the internal assessment standard form, the formative assessment has also been mentioned. So we have seen several times that although you are conducting the internal assessment, but formative assessment is not getting conducted. So that also needs to be done so that the trainer also identify the weak candidates, work on them, counsel them, give some of the extra sessions to those candidates and develop or work on their weak areas. Okay. The training center manager should also have empathy on the candidates and dedicate some time and energy to understand their need and problem. It's not like sitting in the office and only turning on the pages of the standard forms or looking on the standard forms and moving around these room and that room. It's also sometimes that you go to the classes, you talk with the candidates, interact with the candidates, share their issues if there is some regarding the training. Regarding training and all, having been empath to the candidates and trying to understand their needs and problems, how it will help you in the long run, it will actually help in reducing the dropout of the candidate. Okay, it will get engaged in the training session, and there will be a there will be a improvement in the reduced dropout rate we can see. Okay. Yeah. Then develop all the personal development qualities within self as well as within the staff, thereby ensuring that the same qualities are percolated to the candidates as well. Then be honest while documenting or reporting data, that is we expect anyway, and facts to various stakeholders in the project. And lastly, take ownership of all the activities within and beyond his or her training center. So till now, anyone have got any doubt? You can switch on your mic and can raise your doubt. Yes. Any questions? Any question from anyone regarding till now whatever slides we have covered on the topic we have covered? Any doubts on that? Okay, so moving forward, we will see the functions of a training center manager. So first function we need to conduct in order to implement the project. So that is understanding the project parameters, what are required, how many, what should be our training center capacity, what are the targets of each categories like SC, ST, PWD, etc., women. Okay, so all these project parameters need to be understood by the project center manager. In understanding the market potential of various districts for the purpose of mobilization, evaluating the requirements of candidates from various districts, It will be done in during mobilization as well as during counseling as well. When identifying the sources of employment or proximity of the employers, then sourcing a building within proximity of the candidates if non-residential or close to the employment if residential. Okay. Evaluate the level of readiness of a training center, because the faster the training center get ready, the sooner we will be applying for the due diligence and more sooner it will be approved by the SRLM team. Then evaluate and compare the setup cost of various training centers based on their readiness. Evaluate and assess the overall monthly incurring cost of a training center, identifying trainers, mobilizers, placement coordinators based on the criteria as laid down by the SOP or from your organizations for recruitment. Then conduct the mailers like job mailers, counseling mailers, mobilization mailers. There are also several mailers conducted by the state SRNs as well. So coordinating with the state team is also a very important function or the role of a center manager regarding documents from candidates for subsequent enrollment in batches. So these are all the points which already I have discussed till now, like understand the various conditions, components, verifications as laid down by the SOPs as well as the notification. However, only SOPs mentioned here, but I will also, emphasize to go through the time to time basis so that you can understand the various conditions and components and specifications of the project, which gets amended on time to time basis. Then ensure self-compliance to ESOP. I just say that it is ESOP certification is compulsory for the training center managers. Then finalize the vendors for various components based on the quality or the quantity or the cost of various components like food. There are food, there are uniform vendors, there are food vendors, there are teaching and learning vendors. So all those things, like center manager is also a part of a team, or I will rather say, for setting up a training center. Then finalizing the dates or timelines for the setting of infrastructure and communicate the same to the management. Why? Because the next process is only submitting the data to the PIQ team. So once the PIQ team is also satisfied with the infrastructure, they will forward it to the state SRLs for the due diligence. Okay, and if all these processes are followed diligently, then the due diligence will be approved in the first go itself. Then facilitate interviews for the recruitment and assist in finalizing the center staff. Follow up for providing offer and acceptance letters and on board staff. Ensure all the staff are sensitized on the scheme, their roles and responsibilities, and set expectations. This can be done by regularly speaking with the staff, discussing their issues regarding the implementing of the project, regarding where they are falling short, regarding where they are finding it difficult to understand the SOP norms. So all these things need to be sit and discussed regularly with the staff. Okay. Then ensure contracts and agreements with the employers or the companies, where we are, sending our candidates for OJT as well as the placement, and what are the documents we need for the verification for second installment or the consecutive installment releases. Okay, so what are the proof of placement that need to be cleared out to the employers, to the companies beforehand, okay? So that later on, after the placement, you should not face any issues for collecting of such data or the document. Okay, this will unnecessarily will delay the releases of installment otherwise. Then discuss and plan for all the contingencies. I just said earlier in the earlier slides that the training center should be ready, training center manager should be ready for all the contingencies. So what are those? Like some equipment gets failed, there are some equipment failure, candidate absenteeism. This will also lead to the candidate dropout. Then backup of the trainers, if some of the trainers, are absent for more than 2 days or 3 days, then what is the backup plan for those trainers? For those sessions which need to be covered by that particular trainer who is absent for quite a long time. So all those backup plans should be there with the center manager. Then unexpected holidays on account of months, festivals, strikes, etc. So all these contingencies or the plans should be there with the center manager at any given point of time on a daily basis. Okay. Then in case of residential training is provided, then what are the infrastructure need to be set up? What are the facilities like burden, on-call doctor, medicines are available or there or not? Water is available regularly or not? Whether the residential hostel or facility is well secured or not? So all these things need to be maintained. Then identify your building, hostel conditions, secure contracts, or appointment in-house staff for providing 3 times meal to the candidates. Okay, that can be done while you are also engaging in selecting the vendors for the food. Okay, for the meals to the candidates. Then appoint wardens, security guards separately for boys and girls. Then ensure all the CCTV components such as the cameras are all working. Then all the eight indoor games are available. Registers are properly maintained. The grievance register is one of the major registers which need to be maintained both in the training center as well as the hostel separately. Okay. Then ensure the proximity of the hostel as per SOP and arrange the conveyance if applicable. Once set up, verify all the training centers to ensure compliance with SOP. Then facilitation of the due diligence. Okay, and it is always should be in focus that the due diligence should get approved in the first attempt itself, and for that it is also a responsibility of the entire operation that each and every item are as per standard form 5.1 D1 and 5.1 D2. Okay. The staffs are available both in the training center and hostel during the due diligence visit. Then if there are some deviations observed by the officers who will be visiting for the due diligence, so those list of deviations need to be maintained, that need to be discussed with the team, that need to be complied with the SOP norms, and it needs to be submitted again within the specific timeline for the visiting officials. Okay, so that they, at least on the second attempt, the due diligence get approved for the training center. Then follow-up for approvals and comments training. Obviously, follow-up is actually a continuous process that needs to be regularly done. Then intimate SRLM of CTS on commencement of batches and upload the data on the ERP portal as deemed necessary. Here, our ERP portal, ignore all the ERP names which are mentioned in this slide. As of now, it's Kaushal Bharat. We have to maintain the data for. So Kaushal Bharat is there. So on time to time basis, we have to update all the data in the ERP portal, that is Kaushal Bharat portal. Okay. Then operation management. Okay. The first point is on approval. Intimate all the candidates, staff, and management on the date of commencement of the batches. Then formally launch the batch on the state date. Ensure all necessary documents or documentations which have been collected from the candidate that needs to be verified, that needs to be uploaded in the designated portal, that is Kaushal Bharat, and as well as the physical copies also need to be secured and stored. Okay. If the dropout is there before the batch fixing date, then ensure that there are some backup candidates so that the batch size is maintained, the batch size is maintained for that particular training cycle. Otherwise, there will be some shortfall. Okay, and from the day of commencement of the batch till the day of batch freezing, it is a very important role of a center manager to understand or to observe which are the candidates who can be possibly get dropped out, so that backup candidates are enrolled to maintain the batch size for a particular batch cycle. Okay. Then freeze the candidates on the planned date. Distribute all the deliverables of the candidates within the timelines as stipulated. That is a welcome kit. We need to distribute the uniforms. We need to distribute the TLNs. So all those things need to be distributed, which are the candidates are entitled to, and should be maintained in the register. There is a checklist of maintaining what are the items which have been distributed to the candidate. That checklist also needs to be maintained and kept. Should there be any shortfalls, mismatches, malfunctions of deliverables, consumables to the candidates, intimate to the management and arrange for the replacements as early as possible, so that there is no inadequacy of the equipment in terms of training of the candidates. Ensure that the candidates, trainers, and other staff report the training center in time and confirm the timelines as decided by the management or stipulated in SOP. Otherwise, there is also activity come lesson planner. So it is also need to be ensured that the classes start as per the timeline maintained in the SLP. Then functions of center manager, operation management, and daily monitoring components. So while we're talking about daily monitoring components, there are opening and closing of training center as per stipulated timeline, attendance of the candidates and staff in and out. It also needs to be maintained or ensured that while the candidates or staffs are marking attendance in the biometric, that is captured under the CCTV camera, and the CCTV footage needs to be properly maintained, so that in any future if such kind of advisory or non-compliance is raised. Then updating the daily attendance onto register or portal. Then distribution of tablets of the candidates and maintaining the register while the candidate is taking the tablet computer. Then conducting classes as per lesson plan. Here the lesson plan is again our activity come lesson planner, which in short we call it ACLP. Then commencement and closure of classes and break as per the lesson plan. Then I will to complete all the classes as per SOP. In case of absence, arrange for backup trainers to compensate. I just explained all these points. So while talking about daily monitoring component, one of the important factor I want to mention here, that is CCTV footage. So a center manager should be should well accessible to the CCTV footage or the CCTV monitor, so that he or she can keep in track that what's going on in the training center. All the records of the classrooms, like whether the topic are covered as according to activity come lesson planner, whether the discipline is well maintained, if the internal assessment is getting conducted, so is there any malpractices going on, if the trainers are available on time during the training sessions. Okay. If all the role plays, if all the audio visual aids are in use or not. So all these things need to be monitored by the training center manager, and these all activities come under the daily monitoring component. Okay. Yes. So my next point is this only, which I just explained, that is functioning of all the electronic equipment such as CCTV cameras, biometrics, computers, tablets, printers, etc. Availability of the clean drinking water and also water in overhead tanks. Overall cleanliness of the training center, including classrooms, office rooms, staff rooms, common places, and toilets. In case of residential center, ensure that candidates are adhering strictly to tea breaks and lunch breaks. In case the residential center is far away from the training center, ensure adequate transport is available for conveyance. Ensure security to all the personnel in training center and hostel by appointing wardens and updating all the daily records both physically and online as defined in SOP. Yes. Till now, if anybody has got any doubt, you can just switch on your mic and can ask. Okay, so we don't have any doubt. We will move to the next slide. So weekly monitoring components. We have weekly monitoring components. First of all, consolidate attendance of the candidates, staff to identify absenteeism, and also for calculation of TADA and salaries. I have already explained that there are some TADA entitlements for the candidates. So biometric attendance is very important in order to calculate the amount which needs to be transferred to the candidate as their TADA entitlement. Okay. Then consolidating expenditure of the training center for management review. Identify the frequent absentees and plan measures to reduce absenteeism. This will eventually help in reducing the dropout rates in the training center. Updating all daily records, both physically and online as defined in SOP. Fortnightly monitoring components. What are the items? Comes under the fortnightly monitoring components. That is conducting internal assessment for candidates and evaluating performance. Consolidation of attendance for payment of T and DA of candidates, and that need to be forwarded to the management for further processing. Then identify the frequent absenteeism and plan measures to reduce absenteeism. It's actually what we are doing weekly. It ultimately comes down to the fortnightly monitoring components as well. And obviously the monthly monitoring components are also the same. So if following these weekly monitoring components diligently, then it will be easier for us to maintain the fortnightly and monthly monitoring components on track. So after the training is done, there are some functions regarding pre-OJT. If applicable, why? Because again I am saying if OJT is a part of a training plan, then only it is applicable. If OJT is not part of a training plan, then the entire training duration is covered in the training center itself. And if one thing again I am mentioning, if OJT is a part of training plan, then all the days on which the candidates are there in the OJT should be mentioned in the activity cum lesson planner clearly. If OJT, so it's considering if OJT is a part of a training plan, then what are the functions of a training center manager pre-OJT? So first, brief the candidates on work environment, personal etiquette such as time management, etc., so as to set expectations. So these are all expectations expected that it covers in the soft skill module as well as the work readiness module, which we covered during our training session. And this also helps in evaluating or matching the program expectations with the candidate expectations. So it actually starting from the counseling of the candidates and coming through all these training sessions and then these pre-OJT functions, wherein we actually counsel the candidates, what are the etiquettes, what we brief them about the work environment, and then evaluate and matching the program if the candidate expectations is getting matched with the job or the OJT we are providing them. Okay. Thirdly, create communication modes such as WhatsApp group, Facebook groups to regularly interact with the candidates, because it is again very important to track the candidates for the next 365 days. And it has been observed that majorly the candidates are moved out of track from the PIs. And it is very important to track each and every candidate till the installment is getting released. Okay. Not only that, tracking of the candidates also helps in understanding what the candidates are doing, where their current location, their current salaries, so that different incentive targets can also be achieved. Fourthly, collecting the genuine feedback from the candidates on the effectiveness of the program, obviously how we can better ourselves, and the forward to management for evaluation and the record maintenance. Then during OJT, there is on joining on OJT location, collect acknowledgement letters from management and upload online or forward to management for record. Arrange all the transport and the conveyance to the candidates for daily commute to the place of OJT. Make arrangements for capturing attendance of the candidates during OJT. Collect feedback from candidates on their experience at OJT and arrange for alternate locations if difficulty persists. And on completion of the OJT, collect OJT completion letters and upload online or forward to the management for the record maintenance. Similarly, in case of placement, ensure all the candidates or at least minimum candidates as decided by the management for the minimum candidates which you need to send for the employment, so that the target for the placement or the consecutive or the subsequent installment is met or achieved. Earlier, as I said, that the milestone need to be achieved to ensure that the minimum candidate need to be placed. So that also need to be decided and calculated by the center manager. In case a candidate is not comfortable at a particular job, arrange for alternate job. Then collect letters of offer, acceptance and joining for all the candidates and upload in the Kaushal Bharat portal, so that the proper verifications can be conducted at the stipulated timeline. It is also very important to ensure that the candidates are regular at work through constant communication. If few candidates are getting dropped out, we can easily we can try to counsel them. We can motivate them to get back again to the work, and to achieve our target milestone. Then follow up with the employers for timely payment of salaries or wages to the candidate, and also release of PSCs, etc. Because documentation is one of the major criteria by which you will be claiming the second installment or third installment or fourth installment and eventually get it done. And last but not the least, collect all such payslips, bank statement on a month-to-month basis and submit to the management and upload online. So this is the entire training cycle from start of a training or setting up from setting up a training center till a candidate or a badge get placed and collecting the documents and tracking of the candidate. So if anybody has any doubt till now, can come up with the doubts, so that I can also get understand that how many of you have actually played a role as a center manager, and what are the difficulties you are facing in your particular training center, and how you already have tried or trying to overcome those difficulties. Okay. So So before that, we will also take up this slide. That is, what are the post-placement functions of a training center manager? Firstly, ensure all or minimum candidates are placed. We are working for at least minimum of 3 months. Okay, and collecting the documents, maintaining the candidate dossier, biometric attendance, CCTV footages, okay, OJT letters, all the documents, including the placement details like pay slips, bank statements, then tracking and trying to re-employ the dropout candidates also, and all the candidates who have dropped out of a training before a batch freeze or during training may be convinced to rejoin and train in the upcoming or the subsequent batches. Okay. So these are all the functions of a training manager during the training cycle. Now during the inspections, like when the PIAQ team, SRLM as well as the CTSA team goes for a verification, then what are the responsibilities of a training center or the role of a training center at that particular day or particular point of time? So first of all, need to provide all the record as demanded by the inspecting personnel. Okay, provide the facts as they are and refrain from disclosing any fraudulent, wrong or misleading information. Maintain an accurate list of all the observations made during the inspection and state for compliance. Comply with all the deviations diligently and then report back. Okay, or you can also send to the management team if some of the points are beyond your to work on. You can definitely move it to a management, but the report needs to be submitted on prescribed timeline, and that need to be ensured, and that is the role of a center in charge to ensure that. And again, one thing I was again have repeatedly mentioned, that is same deviation need not to be repeated. So it need to be ensured that similar deviations do not repeat in the future. Okay. So again, as a leadership, these are few of the qualities we are looking into the center manager. This is just the bare minimum qualities we are mentioning here. There are thousands and in number of qualities. You bear some of the exceptional qualities we always go and find in some of the training centers during our inspections. So we have pointed few of them. So first of all, in case of management, we have actually broadly divided into two parts, that is management and reporting. In the management, there comes the physical infrastructure. There is quality control, backup issues, cost management, effective utilizations of resources. In staff management, motivating the team to implement the project, providing the training, go for the mobilization, mobilize the right candidate for the right job. So all this is one of the leadership qualities which the training center manager have shown up in regular basis. We have seen that. In the ownership of the project, like the identification of the competent people, motivation, guidance, feedback, and same as well as the candidate management also. Being an impact, being passionate towards the job, being passionate and motivating also to the candidates to have a passion for their training, to have a passion for their job. Not only that, these are the qualities which a training center manager also needs to percolate to his or her training center team for the perfect implement of the project and eventually achieve all the training and placement milestones. And the second point is reporting, that is data accuracy, ethics, consistency, timing, quality, and genuineness. Okay. So these are actually the leadership qualities, bare minimum leadership qualities we have, and these are actually we are not saying that this has to be there in you. Obviously, these are in you. These are the minimum qualities we have just mentioned, and we have actually collected and experienced these points from the training centers we have visited in our inspection in different training centers. So these are the qualities already you have shown up till now, and you are expecting obviously much more in a for for the success of this project in a long term. Yes. So this is all from my side. Again, I'm requesting if you have any doubt, any queries, please come up with your queries. If you are unable to speak, you can write your queries in the chat box. We will try to address all the queries as much as possible. Any queries? So if no more queries is available, then Abhishek ji, can we wrap up the session for today?
Yeah, yes, ma'am.
Okay, okay. Then this is all from my end, obviously, and yes.
Thank you, Susmita ma'am, for delivering this training session. And you have explained quite in detail different aspect and different role of center management on in terms of quality, operation, and inspection. So I hope that for a participant they find it quite useful and for them while implementing their projects. I thank you once again, Susmita ma'am, for taking out time from your busy schedule and delivering this session. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Abhishek ji.
I also like to thank all participants who have attending this training program and taking out time to participate in this training program. I hope you have gained much from this training program. So we'll wind up our training session for now. Thank you once again for joining this training program.